Esteemed colleagues from MIT, colleagues CUHK, I guess it's kind of scary standing here to talk about something about education because I'm not a technical person. So my talk will focus less on the science of computation, but more on the learning side. So my the topic is technology-mediated learning, big data and learning outcomes, issues and challenges in education. Cool. Let me see. It's not. Okay, I guess the objective of my presentation is to summarize research findings on the effectiveness of technology-mediated learning on education. How does e-learning or technology-mediated learning approaches affect learning and contributing to learning in the process. And to discuss the challenges that the education profession is facing in relation to the development of technology-mediated learning. Now, I guess I would like to kind of highlight some recent development, but recent means in the last maybe few decades. Have you heard about Plato? Actually, Plato was regarded by some as the first e-learning sort of development. It was developed at the University of Illinois in the 60s, 70s. And actually, I was a student at the University of Illinois in the late 70s and early 80s, and I saw these Plato terminals, okay? And they were kind of mysterious, and I didn't know what they were, but they were supposed to be doing some teaching. And I found out later that these were terminals that offer courses to university students and even to high school and elementary students. And it was actually a very innovative device, and it was actually developed by the Department of Physics and Computer Scientists at the university. And they actually innovate many of the features that we use in teaching, including message boards, online testing, email, chat rooms, picture language, instant messaging, and so forth. So Plato could be the first e-learning device. Plato stands for Programmed Logic for Automated Teaching Operations. Okay, so at that time, there has to be a terminal in a room, in a computer room. But I guess over the years, things have changed, and students, learners can have their computers and have their own laptops. They can do learning in different places. And I want to highlight this person called Sugata Mitra. What this Sugata Mitra did, he actually was from India. He put up these little huts with computers on the wall. He called the hole in the wall experiment. And he found that actually by just putting these computers on the wall or on different locations, many poor children can actually learn quite effectively. So the first idea that he talked about is motivation. Actually, all students have the motivation to learn on their own. And then if we give them the tools, they can learn without a lot of direction from the teachers. And he called that minimally invasive education. He started in 1999, and he continued that. It was spread to some other countries. In 2013, Sugata Mitra actually presented a similar idea called build a school in the cloud idea. So if you watch the TED Talks in 2013, that was a couple years ago, he actually won the $1 million TED Talk prize. And this is his vision. My wish is to help design the future of learning by supporting children all over the world to tap into their innate sense of wonder and work together. Help me build a school in the cloud, a learning lab in India, where children can embark on intellectual adventures by engaging and connecting with information and mentoring online. I also invite you, wherever you are, to create your miniature child-driven learning environments and share your discoveries. Okay, if you go to the website of CUHK, you actually can find out how the study was progressing after he received the TED Award. And Khan Academy, now, I mean, there's another way, okay? We all know about Khan Academy. They do a lot of online tutorings, lots of videos in many languages. The idea of flipped classroom is actually proposed by perhaps one of the earlier proposal was by Khan. This is the impact. Video library, automated exercise with continuous assessment, and they have a lot of features and translated into languages. Even in Hong Kong, I think there are some secondary schools that are using the videos of Khan Academy to teach their students, to augment the teaching of the teachers. When Khan was interviewed by an Indian newspaper recently, he talked about the idea of flipped classroom, but they actually have moved further beyond the idea of the flipped classroom. He was talking about personalized education. Although some teachers have used Khan Academy to flip the classroom, I'm actually more excited about personalizing education, flipping the classroom, having students watch lectures and read text as homework and then solve problems or discuss the reading during class is not a new phenomenon. Literature classes have been using this method for centuries. The goal of One World Schoolhouse is to shift from a one-size-fits-all classroom to a more personalized model of flipping the classroom. Doesn't necessarily achieve this goal. For example, if all students are required to watch the same videos on the same day, they still are not learning in a personalized way. What I hope we'll see in the future is a movement towards self-paced, mastery-based education. I guess we all want to know the effectiveness of all these innovations on Khan. The US Department of Education is conducting a large-scale study using a randomized controlled trial research design methodology to study the effectiveness, focusing on mathematics between 2015 and 16. We have other developments to MOOC, Udacity offering nano degrees, Coursera and EDX offering lots of online courses, but are they effective? Can cloud school, cloud instruction tutoring, MOOC, intelligent tutors, can they replace teaching and learning in traditional school and classroom setting? Actually, this is not a very good question. I guess the better question is, what are the keys to making technology-mediated learning effective? How do they work with the traditional mode of teaching in a classroom? The interaction is most important. A scholar in education, John Haley, he conducted a huge scale study. He actually looked into 800 meta-analysis related to education effectiveness in the last few decades. He took 15 years to do the research. Okay? Meta-analysis is a way of looking into the overall effects of some intervention, not by one study, but by many studies. Actually, he conducted this study with more than 800 meta-analysis, and on computer-assisted, technology-assisted approaches, he identified 76 meta-analysis involving hundreds of studies. Actually, here 4,000 studies and 4 million students. And the conclusion is that there's no necessary relationship between having computers, using computers, and learning outcomes. There was no correlation between effect size and year of study. That means not the more recent study can produce better, stronger effects, but the effects is relatively stable across years, across grades and ability level of students. Well, actually, that was a very general conclusion, but here are some of the more specific findings. In order for e-learning to be effective, diverse teaching strategies have to be used. That means you're not just using one mode, okay? You can use other methods. they have to be used together to meet the learning needs of the students. Training in the use of technology as teaching learning tools, training the teachers, training the students. That means we have to give them some tutoring on how to use the technology. So not just the intelligent tutor that is computerized, but maybe the human tutor that can help the teachers and the students to learn how to use the technology. Multiple opportunities for learning, that means they have time, they're not under time pressure. They can use on their own time to learn, and that there are multiple avenues, opportunities for them to practice. The student or teacher is in control of learning. This is very important. I think in traditional education, the teachers, is more the boss of the classroom and in control of the curriculum and in control of what needs to be learned. But having students to be in control of learning is very important. Peer learning to be optimized, that means students can learn interactively, with the aid of technology that has been made highly possible in the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. Feedback is optimized, that means you have channels to give feedback to the students and that they can improve. Feedback can be given, can be directed, can be sent from various sources, not just the teacher. The peer learning process could also generate lots of useful feedback for the students. And here is another, general conclusions about e-learning approaches. Drill and practice computer-assisted program not effective. The challenge is how to make, if we still believe in drill and practice, that we need to see how they could become more effective. Drilling is not very useful. Constructivist use of technology produce positive effects. That means we need to engage students to create things, to put things together, to innovate, to create new things. That's important. That is a lot more important for the future global economy than just consuming knowledge or regurgitating knowledge. Computer laptop home ownership increased, high school graduation rate. If they have computers at home, they're more likely to graduate. That means computer can help the students to learn. Okay. Now, following are just some main conclusion from John Hatie on education, not just on, the technology-assisted instruction. So these are more general conclusions, but I think are relevant to our topic today. Teachers are among the most powerful influence in learning. From his years of looking into the meta-analysis, this is one of the, age-old, belief that we tend to have, is that teachers are among the most powerful influences in learning. So if we want to make e-learning effective, then I think engaging the teacher is important. They're not going to replace the teachers. The technology and the teacher have to be together. But teachers need to be directive, influential, caring, and actively engaging in the passion of teaching and learning. That means in addition to having the hardware, the teacher themselves, their characteristics, the passion that they have, that they can express in teaching is as important. Okay, directive, influential, caring, and actively engaged. He concluded that teachers need to be aware that every day in their teaching, they have to teach students how to think, to construct meanings, and use meaningful experiences in light of the knowledge that they teach, so that students can move progressively through the curriculum levels. And I am sure that instructional tools, technology, have a lot to offer to improve that. John Hatie also is a proponent of impact and evidence-based learning. One of the key words that he used throughout the book that he wrote was that you need to know the impact. This is where big data may fit in. Effective teaching are not tied to specific teaching strategies, rather the effective teachers focus sharply on evaluating the effects they have on students and adjust teaching methods accordingly. That means the teacher has to be someone who can use multiple sources of data to assess how they do. I think in the future, Helen talks about the big data, all sorts of data that are available. I guess the point that I want to make is that, very soon, maybe today, every one of us, all the teachers, students, have to become a data analyst. That means they have to be able to consume, understand, and derive meanings and identify actions from the data that they have available from the various sources. John Haley talks about visible teaching and learning. This is actually the title of his book. When teaching and learning are visible, that is, when it is clear what teachers are teaching and what students are learning, student achievement increases. So the key words is visible teaching and visible learning. What is visible teaching? What is visible learning? Visible teaching, when teachers see learning through the eyes of the students. You meet the needs of the students. Visible learning, when students see themselves as their own teachers. That means they think they can handle the process of learning and become their own teacher. That is very important. So visible teaching and visible learning. So I guess with this little time that we have, I want to talk about challenge. Challenge one is that, how do we design and optimize the architectronics of school for teaching and learning? I guess you've probably not heard about this term called architectronic. Architectronic refers to the learning environment today. They're not confined to the classroom walls, to the school, but to the space that students are engaging in the theaters, live theaters that they play their life roles. How do we make use of the school premise? How do we engage students to learn at home and in other places? The key word is the learning community. The community consists of students inside and outside of the classroom in the community. How do we design and optimize the architectronics of schools using technology, using classroom, using teachers, using various agents of teaching in our community and parents? How do we engage learning technology so that the students, not the teachers, in control of learning? This is actually a conclusion that John Haley drew after looking into many studies. Learning technology should facilitate and enhance the powerful impact of teachers, not to replace them. How do we facilitate teaching and learning in the new classroom so that learners are co-designer of knowledge and learning, making use of all the interactions that are made possible by technology? 3 is knowing the impact. I guess I don't have a lot of time, but I guess the idea is that there are many data available. They're untidy, they are not consistent, they're hard to read, but then we have to train all of us, all the teachers and educators and students to try to understand from the massive data that we are gathering, not just the traditional assessment data, but other types of data, including how we learn, how we enhance the competence of students on the 21st century skills. These are the 21st century skills for your information. And the idea that all of us have to be a data analyst. Okay, lastly, how can we structure the new learning such that it can be transformative to all? I think this is the most important question. Education should be transformative. So we are not just happy with the status quo. We are not just happy with owning the knowledge. We want students to not just become a consumer of knowledge, but someone who can develop, who can discover new knowledge, who can innovate. So we want to, in order for that to be education to be transformative, learning technology to be available to all, inclusive education, building on the strengths of learner diversity, to develop learners who can navigate change, discern meanings, negotiate diversity, and create and innovate would be the most important goal of education, and I'm sure that technology has a lot that can help in the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Learn. This will be the end of the first session. We will now have a coffee break at the foyer outside the lecture theater. Please help yourselves. The next session will begin in 10:30. Thank you. Welcome back again after the coffee break. The next session of the workshop begins now. We are honored to have Professor Chris Thurman as our second MIT speaker. Professor Thurman is the Director of Academics, MIT Ethics, and Senior Lecturer in the MIT Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. He has 4 decades of experience as a teacher, digital system designer, courseware developer, and entrepreneur. Professor Thurman's research has been in the areas of programming languages, compilers, and computer-aided design tools for integrated circuits. Most recently, he was the research director of the MIT Cumulus Education Project, a research collaboration with Quanta Computer Inc. focused on the development of cloud-based educational technologies. Professor Thurman received his BS in physics from Wesleyan University and headed to MIT for graduate school in 1973. He completed his MS, EE, and PhD degrees in computer science and engineering and subsequently joined MIT's EECS faculty. He escaped from MIT in 1985 and tried his hand at being an entrepreneur before returning to MIT in 1995. He's an avid hiker and enjoys guiding summer walking tours in the Swiss Alps. The title of his talk is See One, Do One, Teach One. Professor Thurman, please.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.